Where to buy urushi? Without a doubt, it's the most frequent asked questions I receive from you. So today I will explain and show where I buy urushi, where I used to buy urushi, what are other options, and I will show you the exact websites, shops where you can order urushi from. I will start with a few European options, urushi available from mostly German shops. As for beginners, it's much easier and cheaper to buy just 1, 2, maybe 3 tubes or some other basic supplies locally. Typical problem with ordering from Japan is prohibitive delivery costs. Some of the shops will use EMS, so postal service, but usually they use DHL or FedEx or something like this, and from Japan it's always expensive. Sometimes it's also intimidating to deal with customs and explaining what urushi is. I imagine it can be difficult. Let me start with the shop which has probably right now the biggest selection of urushi of very good quality, and I checked it myself and I use it myself. It's Kremer Pigmente. It's a huge German distributor of pigments. I'm on the urushi page right now. Actually, I searched for urushi. I had troubles finding the exact category in the menu, so I just searched for urushi. They have urushi from by another supplier from Japan, from Tsutsumi, so Korin Urushi. And as you can see, we can buy from basic transparent shuai, through kuroroiro, white urushi, so colored, pigmented urushi, red urushi, pigmented, bengara, dark red, another red urushi, honshu, vermilion, so-called vermilion, so full red, yellow pigmented urushi, green pigmented urushi, blue in 2 versions, and purple. What I can't find here, and I'm not sure if it's even available here, it's raw urushi. So it might be a problem, but you can order it from another shop in Germany. It's Dictum. Both Kremer and Dictum deliver worldwide, I think, but definitely in Europe it's not a problem. There is a surface in surfaces menu, surface protection products, and in them urushi. They have a small selection of urushi, and I'm not sure from which suppliers do they have it, but there is a raw urushi in 2 different kinds. This is Ki urushi here, and I saw, no, they don't have it anymore. So just one in Ki urushi, Kijiro transparent urushi, process urushi, black urushi mixed with oil, so for nuritate finish, and I'm not a very big fan of it for beginners especially, but as you can see, you can buy basic hake, so kiradashi hake, some already prepared, very easy to use, in 2 different widths, 15 and 24 millimeters. And also migaki polishing powder, which is pretty rare and difficult to find in Europe. Also some charcoal for polishing. I do not advise beginners to mess with charcoal, but you can try if you want. And very important thing, a polishing paper. I think they did not... Okay, it loaded. Some other things like spatulas, polishing paper, so wiping paper, not polishing paper properly, are available here too, but also something very new on European market. It's a urushi oil in cans for finishing wood. I bought it, I tested it, I don't like it, but maybe for some of you it might be interesting. This is a mixture of, from what I can judge, it's no more than 15, maybe 20% of urushi with some drying oils and solvents. It might be fun to use. It's pretty cheap for urushi product, but I'm not very happy with the results. Another place with decent offer in Europe is Korest. They specialize in restoration of art, and one of the important part of restoration of Asian art is Urushi. They have quite a lot of different subsections here, but the most interesting one is this one. Sell Urushi in sets, for example, Seshime, so raw Urushi with Shuai, Black Roiro, and Aka Urushi. I think it's just red pigmented Urushi. The mess with the names continues, of course, here. But they have some other types too. So Bengara, set of transparent Urushi with Bengara pigment, and some colored Urushi too. So from those three shops, you can buy almost everything which is needed for first two levels I talked about in previous video on tools and materials in Urushi. But in Korest, they have much more, because they have some ready-made sets for Kintsugi. They have some powders, some basic powders, gold and silver powders, but also iron oxide for making Bengara, and bronze powder for imitation of gold. They have some brushes. To be frank, I do not like their brushes. They describe they are for Urushi, but from my point of view, they are not. But they have Ashira Ikebo, so for gold. They got brush for scattering and for like swiping gold in maki-e and in Kintsugi. They have some other tools like Mavata. So this is a silk wedding for applying gold, and mineral powders like Tonoko, Jinoko, Tonoko in several different versions, the more thick clays to mix with Urushi for groundwork, sawdust into different grids. So pretty interesting thing, mostly for Kintsugi, but also for other Urushi work. Also glutinous rice, rice flour, animal glue into different versions for making mixtures with Urushi, and some handy tools for work with Urushi. Also, I see there's a book here on Kintsugi in German and in English, I think. Yes, both languages, German and English, in the book, so it might be cool to check it out. There are two other shops in Europe, one in France, one in United Kingdom. I haven't tested them yet, mostly because I do have all of it, but their prices are pretty crazy, to be frank. First one, this one is Kintsugi Oxford, and I'm not sure where do they get their Urushi from, but they also have basic tools and basic Urushi and even some charcoal. But as I said, the prices are absolutely crazy. For some of those things, it would be easier to buy them from Japan and pay for the shipping. The other one is called Kintsugi Art. This one is in France. Same problem, crazy prices, but local. So it might be good to check them out. If you need just one or two things from them, you may consider buying from one of those shops. Both are in English, even the French one is in English, so it should not be a problem anywhere in the world. But to be frank, if you are serious about Urushi, the only place you can buy it is Japan. Most of Urushi in the world is harvested in China, and it's also processed in China. But the best quality Urushi I have ever bought, it's always from Japan. And even if it's Chinese Urushi, it's imported in raw form to China and it's processed to Japan, and then it's processed in Japan. If you are serious about Urushi, even if it's still your hobby, consider buying from Japan. First shop I had experience with very long time ago, it was like 6 years ago, was Watanabe Shoten. and they have 3 languages, so Chinese, English, and Japanese. You can switch them easily. Click for mail order sales. This is the shop, if you would wonder where is the shop. And this is a proper offer of Urushi. It's not the biggest, but I bet you will find everything there you will need in first 2 years. I would be surprised if you didn't find here. The problem right now in Japan, even in Japan, is the availability of hake, so the flat brushes. If you are looking for a good quality hake, it might be a difficult task right now because most of old best hake makers, generally most hake makers, retired or died. Some of them had students, apprentices, and they make hake, but the supply is very limited and it's pretty difficult to buy it. But let's concentrate on what's available. Urushi Watanabe should have quite a decent selection of hake. I'm not sure about real availability because they do not show it on the website, but you can check it. Of course, the seshime in 2 different sizes, so they do have most products in 2 sizes, like 40 grams and 100 grams tubes. So seshime, kijiro, kuroroiro, shuai, so oiled urushi, transparent, kuro nuritate, so black oiled urushi. Here, nashiji in only oiled version, kijomi urushi, so high quality, high grade raw urushi. Japanese made kijiro, so it's the difference between Japanese made and Chinese urushi is they are both processed in Japan. But the Japanese is sourced and harvested in Japan and processed in Japan. The Chinese one is harvested in China but processed in Japan. It will be the same in every Japanese shop, so the same story. And quite a selection of color urushi, and one urushi which is pretty rare on the market. It's called ikake urushi. It's very, very thick, extremely viscous urushi for applying, for example, gold powder on very narrow, sharp edges of objects. And it works in this regard very well. Other categories you will find in this shop, it's of course the brushes for maki-e in many different forms. Do not jump on this ship too early. Try first substitute brush or this one, the Penterumen brush, which is a synthetic brush but made according to Japanese tradition and made in a construction which is very similar to natural brushes, and it works extremely well. I know people who they prefer this brush to original extremely expensive brushes for maki-e or kintsugi. Then flat brushes, huge selection, and I really wonder if they do have them. They have brushes also from the young company Kitsune, and I like them. They are usually shorter than typical traditional Japanese hon, so full-length brushes, but they are very decent quality. The brushes I like the most from their offer are those Gokuyo Hantoshi. I have Hontoshi, so full length, but try them if you really need a hake brush. The width of the brush is provided in Bu and in Sun, so the traditional Japanese measures. As far as I remember, one Bu is around 4 millimeters, something like that. But they also always provide the measuring tape along the brush, so it's easy to check what's the real life size of the brush. Some other tools for maki-e, so everything you would probably need for basic maki-e, including funzutsu, so the sprinkling tubes, and mawata or tsumeban, the palette, the small palette which you wear on your thumb to minimize the movements in maki-e application. Huge selection of spatulas of different kinds. I am not a very big fan of wooden spatulas for the beginners. So I suggest you to buy the plastic ones, but you can buy one wooden spatula to learn to sharpen it and to modify it, because each craftsman sharpens and modifies his hera himself to the shape and width and the sharpness he really uses it. Pigments, and this is a rabbit hole of itself. Powders for Ishimeji. They are expensive. They do have them in 2 different grids and in several colors. They also have black in the very high grid 250. It's almost like a flower. You can achieve a lot of different results with those several types of kanshitsu powders. Metal leaves, mother of pearl in single sheets, quite a selection. Polishing materials, including charcoal, but the most important part are those crystals toishi and sanwa toishi. Those are whetstones. The sanwa are like traditional whetstones but much softer, and crystal are, they degrade very fast and they have very, very precise grit in comparison to charcoal. In a lot of respects, they are very, very similar in working with charcoal. There are slightly different uses for sanwa, slightly different uses for crystal toishi, but you have to try them and understand how they work, maybe compare with charcoal. But I use both, and I use charcoal not very often, but I use it too. But my main tool is sandpaper, but do not order sandpaper from Japan. It makes no sense, and even they order sandpaper from Germany and from Europe. It's, of course, Matador, Stärke Matador, the best wet and dry sandpaper in the world. I think I have tested like 50, maybe 25 different types of sandpaper, and they haven't found anything which gets even close. Do not bother with micromesh. It makes no sense with the like serious urushi work. More knives, sieves, cloth, wiping tools. So everything you would probably ever need in first few years working with urushi, including the knife for cutting raden. That's typical Japanese skiving knife. The Watanabe, you just put stuff in your cart, you proceed to the checkout, you provide your data, but you cannot pay and order online. You just mark that it's an overseas shipping, you provide all the data, and they contact you by email. So watch out for emails getting into spam if you order from Watanabe. They do speak English, so you can ask for some things, but do not expect some very serious and precise answers. They tend to answer pretty laconically, and it's pretty rare that Japanese sellers will consider you knowledgeable in urushi. They assume that you are like total beginner and you know nothing. So it might be difficult sometimes. Another shop was Kato Kohei, Kato Kohei Shoten, Kato Kohei, and they do not have a cart of any kind. So you have to read the description, check the prices, write in an email what you want and how much you want it, send them an email, and they will respond, and you can like deal with them this way. It might be pretty difficult sometimes because you have to exchange a few emails. Something is missing, something's not available, something is out of stock or will be supplied later. But the selection of tools and urushis, especially of tools, is similar to Watanabe, but I found quite a lot of urushi types which are not available in Watanabe Shoten I found here. And the quality of the urushi is really good. Next one, and probably the biggest and the best one, is Minowa. The shop is both in English and Japanese, but you cannot, technically you can order from Japanese shop, but it's pain But there is an English version, and most of the products which are in Japanese shop are in English version. If you find something in a Japanese version of the shop using, for example, Google Translate, which is not available in the English version, you can ask them to add it to English version and they will do it. They are pretty standard categories, so colored urushi, rash resistant urushi, urushi made in Japan, urushi made in China, urushi for glass, which is great if you are going to apply urushi on glass or ceramics, or even in kintsugi. The biggest problem in kintsugi is if you are applying urushi on surface which is glazed and you want to do something just outside of the cracks. So add some design on the glazed area. And urushi for glass might be a solution for this. Transparent types of urushi, so colored transparent urushi, even metallic urushi. So urushi mixed with metallic pigments. I used to use them, they are quite good, but if you buy them, use them quickly because they separate in the tube, they are super difficult to filter, and you will suffer if you buy too much, financially mostly. Of course, base materials, so everything for shitaji, dry lacquer, so all the powders, dry lacquer powders in different grids and colors, books and DVDs on urushi, mostly in Japanese, but some of them are in English or German or other languages. Also some raden, some shell for making raden in several different categories, including thin, which is the most interesting for most of us, but also tiny design, so already pre-cut by laser and ready for use with urushi, sometimes even backed with a black urushi already prepared for application. So really convenient. The prices are cool and they deliver with AMS, as far as I remember. They do not use DHL or FedEx or any of the couriers, so only EMS. So expect European customs to be very nosy about what's inside, and expect, of course, VAT and some customs duty to be paid in Europe. I don't know about United States, but probably the same. I order from this shop on regular basis. So once again, it's Minowa Shikko, and the shop is Urushiya shop.ock.net. You can see the address here. I will provide all the addresses in the description. Next one is my absolute favorite. This is the Japanese version, but I will switch to English version. It's Tsutsumi Asakichi. It's a company which is over 100 years old, and it's now managed by fourth or fifth generation of Tsutsumi family. And they speak English, and they are like super cool people. The owner speaks English, but also one of the workers speaks English. And as you will see, you can go to their main website and see what they do, because it's really, really cool. They make, for example, windsurfing boards in Urushi. They have a lot of educational projects for schools, for children. They invest a lot in popularizing Urushi and in teaching about Urushi. And the guy who is managing the company is a young person, and he just wants to make Urushi cool again. And I really like what they do, and I'm a regular customer, and yes, I recommend them both from the quality point of view and who they are and what they do. But if you are interested in what's available, this website is in English, the card is in English, it's easy to order, all the prices, all the costs of delivery are very nicely stated. The selection of Urushi is pretty nice, but sometimes the descriptions are not good enough. So it's good to have the Japanese version of the website open. With Google Translate, I will show you that it works pretty well. You can switch English to language to English and read about the Urushi lacquer or some tools which are most interesting for you. For example, this one, the descriptions are longer and better. And sometimes there are tools or products which are available only on the Japanese website. You can write them an email and ask them to add this product to English website. But with some products, it's impossible. They will not sell charcoal overseas. They will not sell solvents. I think none of them will sell solvents. They will not sell some products which they do have the limited distribution. For example, synthetic opal from Kyocera or some polishing compounds. They cannot export from Japan. So they will not add it to the English website. But most of our products are already here, and the selection is pretty cool. The navigation is not the best, but it's worth it. I think hands down my favorite supplier, maybe not my favorite Urushi selection, but my favorite supplier for sure. And the last one I wanted to mention today is Sato. This is a huge Urushi producer and processor, but 80% of what they do is provided to the industry. So for companies which use Urushi in silk printing technologies and in they apply it with spray guns and spray paint. They have some very special formulations made for those companies, but they also have a huge selection of Urushi and tools for Urushi in their offer, including some very unusual types of Urushi. So the Emer type Urushi is pretty well known. So it's mill-rolled Urushi. It's called differently in different companies, like Korin in Tsutsumi. But they also have LTH Urushi, which is Urushi which polymerizes in much lower humidities, or Noa Urushi, which is like the low allergenic Urushi and of high viscosity. So pretty interesting offer, and extreme selection of ready-made, ready-mixed colors. They have over 100 ready-made colors of Urushi, so pigmented Urushi, in their offer at any given moment. So if you are after color and you do not want to mix pigments and mix colors yourself, go to them. And as you can see, these are color patches. 100 different colors, just blacks. So the black category, like Kuro category, is in so many different options. I think the best place for colored Urushi, and you can specify which type of base Urushi you want to have mixed with the pigment. Important thing about some of those suppliers, if they know you and if you are a regular client, Sato, I think Tsutsumi too, but definitely Minowa, they will be open to process Urushi for you. Probably if you are buying for the first time, they will dismiss you, but if you prove to them that you are a serious Urushi craftsman and you know what you want, they will formulate Urushi for you. For example, you want a extremely thick but slow curing transparent Urushi. It's doable. They can do it, and they will do it for you, especially the Minowa. They are the most flexible in this regard. So you can specify all the four basic factors of Urushi, and they will do it. All of those five shops, they offer both Chinese and Japanese Urushi, but all the Urushi is processed in Japan all of them are also processors. So they are not distributors, they process the urushi and they sell urushi. I do not shop at distributors. It makes no sense for me. Only if it's in Europe and I just need something very fast. But even then, I prefer to order from Tsutsumi and have it delivered in 5 days maximum, usually even faster with DHL. So if you want to buy good quality urushi, order from the source. Why? Especially with raw urushi, I would be very cautious buying from European distributors. I had problems with raw urushi from Dictum because it was pretty old. They order a batch of urushi from their supplier in Japan, it's delivered, it stays on the shelf in Dictum, and they order another batch once they sell out. So it might have spent on their shelf like 6 months and then was delivered to me and it was already going bad. I would have the same cautious approach to raw urushi from both European shops I mentioned, so Kintsugi.art in France and Kintsugi Oxford in United Kingdom. It should not be a problem with processed urushi, so colored urushi, transparent black urushi, but with raw urushi I would be cautious, or just plainly ask them if it's fresh. I do not know where they get their urushi from, because I see that the Kintsugi shop, this Kintsugi art, he repackages urushi to his own tubes, which is a problem for me personally. I wouldn't buy it because it's another contact with air, another situation where the urushi might be contaminated. But it does not mean that it's a bad quality urushi. It might be great. So I will test this shop maybe and will come back to you with my report about it. That's it. Unfortunately, I couldn't find any distributor supplier of urushi in the United States. From what I know, a lot of United States customers buy urushi from Mejiro. I have never tried them. I used some of urushi from them, passed to me from someone else. I wasn't very happy, but it might have been just a fluke. So there is an option to buy from them. I do not know if they have the local warehouse or something like this, but you can check them out. Otherwise, I suggest ordering from Japan, and you will just pay some taxes like everyone else in the world. Okay, that's it. If you have questions about my experience with those shops, my experience with a specific type of urushi or specific product from the shops I mentioned today, write a comment or write me an email. I will try to answer as good as possible, and let's go shopping. I'm Michael and your guests of Tamenuri Studio.